Yo, guys, what is up? Here is today's Smart Money Sundays episode. It's going to be about 20 minutes long, and we're going to talk about a topic that I want to address. We're going to be looking at imbalance with, this entire video kind of. So, the reason I want to talk about that or, kind of address that topic is because a lot of these dollar pairs have been making very linear movements and have been leaving a lot of imbalance on the higher time frames. So, if we start with ADUSD, let's go to the weekly time frame. So weekly time frame, you can see we had this low, right? So relatively equal lows that got run out right here. And then we pushed up, breaking structure to the upside here. Right. So break a structure right there. And then we come back down to it to mitigate, right? Because we had a very clear run on these relatively equal lows. And then this move here is the inefficient pricing. Inefficient pricing occurs when there's only buying or only selling. And we can see here clearly that there is or was inefficiency in the market. We had a gap in price from this wick to this wick. When I say gap, I don't mean a literal price gap like a candle here, right? And then one that opens like all the way down here. That's not what I mean by gap. What I mean by gap is that the body of this candle is not covered. So the body not being covered means like this here, you can see if I go to this candle, there was a bit of inefficiency from here to here, right? So there was this candle, and then after this candle, we had a very large bullish candle right here. I don't know why I just did that, but anyway, very large bullish candle. And then we have this candle here. So on either side of this bullish candle, there is, the price is not connecting. There's a gap in price on either side. What I was going to say, there are wicks, but the wicks are not meeting each other. So what ends up happening with this candle? With this candle, what we do is spike below the wick low, take liquidity, and then fill some of the inefficiency that was resting within that region of price. So again, inefficiency is the same thing as imbalance, and it's referring to an imbalance between buyers and sellers. Within this candle, there's only buying pressure, right? That's why this wick does not connect with this wick. There's inefficiency, right? For every buyer, there needs to be a seller, and for every seller, there needs to be a buyer. And when we get these really large candles that have wicks on either side not being covered, meaning we have a wick here and a wick here, and they're not meeting, that's an inefficiency. There are more buyers here than there are sellers, right? And that means that we need to come back to balance those orders out because, again, every buyer must have a seller. So you can see we create this very impulsive leg in price, quite a significant run to the upside. And then we trade all the way back down into this inefficiency. We also trade into this sell to buy candle. It's just an added confluence. So we trade into the sell to buy that swept out the lows. And then we started to really move to the upside, right? So let's drop to the 4-hour here. So drop to the 4-hour, you can see we traded into this candle. This is where that candle really was. We trade into it here. Sorry, over here. This is the candle. This is that weekly sell to buy. We trade all the way down into it, and then we break above this structure here, right? We break above the high that produced this low. So now we're bullish, and what do we trade into? We trade into the last sell to buy up. You can see we're moving down, bought up a little bit, and then this is the final sell to buy that really drove price higher, right? So we push down, and this is the origin of the move that created the breakup structure. So now we are bullish. We trade into that weekly sell to buy. So now we're really going to try to be looking for longs, right? And you can see what happened was we generated relatively equal lows right here. So relatively equal lows that we ended up sweeping out right here. And this was a little break of structure once we traded above this. So you can note or notice that within, so this is one daily time frame sell to buy candle. Within this, we had this here. It was mitigated with this here. So realistic expectation for price would be for it to trade into this level right here. That is a very reasonable expectation for price to trade into that. Now you can see we had a really nice wave play actually. I did think that this would dig a bit lower, but it ended up not, which is okay. So we had this BOS, we had a really nice pullback right into this sell to buy. And then we had a drive. This is a single leg within, or with this single leg. Not coincidentally, we pull fib, 78.6 lines up really nicely with that POI. So I don't think that this area is a far reach for price. I think that this is a really reasonable expectation. You can see that we are currently reacting off of this sell to buy candle right here that created this new high relative to this high here. So price is reacting off of that. And we had our break of structure within this bullish leg right here. We broke below and then we pulled back to mitigate the last buy to sell candle. And then we created a lower low. So here, this is what our structure looks like. So I think that we could pull up into this candle here and then short off really down into this region of price. So I will be looking for trades up within this region of price. This is just following structure really nicely. And it appears that we traded into some type of candle here that, you know, that really gave us that break of structure. And again, I'll kind of label it or mark it out more explicitly. Oops, one thing. Like this. And then we break down, pull back, lower low. So now we expect a lower high to lower low. You can see the fib lines up really nicely here with this buy to sell 78.6 right at the open of that last buy to sell candle. That should be a really nice area for shorts. And I think that if we get, oh, sorry guys, a lower time frame confirmation within here, that we could catch a really high RR trade, because, you know, like you can take it off of this, but you might catch, I don't know, what would that be? Probably, so like a 1 to 7, but let's say you get something in here and you can cut your stop loss into, you know, a fourth, you're going to hit a 1 to 26, which would be an awesome trade. So that's a really good level on AUD USD. That's a complete breakdown of the structure. Now looking at GBP USD, this is a really pretty wave play as well. It's a bit complicated, but nevertheless, it is still relatively clear to follow. You can see we had a high, low, higher high, lower low, lower high, lower low. And within this leg to the downside, we had these relatively equal highs right here that we ended up sweeping out with this 4-hour candle right here. So I did want price to trade up into this 4-hour candle. It ended up missing, and it actually traded into a daily candle. And that daily candle was right here. So if we refine this a little bit, Here's the last up move before the true down move that created that lower low. So we trade into that, right? And we distributed in price all throughout here. So we trade into that daily buy to sell. This was the last structural low that produced the high. It was not this low right here. It was the low that I have marked up right now. So we don't trade below it until here. Now, what I anticipated was a nice reaction off of this to push us higher into really this region of price, this little wick right here. We obviously did not end up getting that, which is fine. But now we've made a lower low. So just following structure, you can see we cleared out these highs before this push. So we have made a lower low. We, again, higher time frame structure was high, low, low. We pull back, break counter trend structure here. And then we create a lower low, lower high, lower low. Now let's see if we can get a pullback up into here this week. I think I do think we can. This fib level lines up really nicely. And then this -27, which is what I have marked up with this black line, lines up with this wick low right here, pretty much right at the open of this candle. So I think that we could get a pullback up into here to then short off into this level down here. You can see with this, we actually came into a 5-minute candle right here after sweeping out these relatively equal lows. And then on Friday, I actually had this trade marked up. I just totally let it slip my mind. I did not end up sending it out to our VIP community, but I did have a live session with them and I did mention this level. And it's just because structurally speaking, we traded into that 5-minute level. We swept out this low here and this low. We had this BOS. We retraced. I think it was pretty much right into the 78.6%. So yeah, practically the 78.6%, 50% of this last down move swept out these lows, and then it ended up hitting this higher time frame POI right in here. So that was a nice little trade that, you know, not so much hindsight as much as it was just messing up and not really paying attention. That was a nice trade though. And I really do think that we could see price trade up into here. This is like a 4-hour candle. And within here, it's not really structure in my opinion, but this is a leg. And within this leg here is a tiny bit of structure. We're having some difficulties breaking through this buy to sell, which makes me think that it is going to hold. And we might just short off and take out this low and take out these relatively equal lows down here to go ahead and create that new higher time frame lower low, just because we are bearish on the higher time frames. So GU, it is either going to, pull back up into here and start forming some structure like this. So if it does that, I'm going to try to short it off up here. But if it decides to respect this and makes a lower low, I'll wait for a pullback to then short it off lower. So that's what I'm looking at on GBP USD. So I've now covered AU, GU, and now it is time for EU. So EU was a little crazy, to be honest with you. Not last week, the week before. What it ended up doing is it ended up trading into a daily buy to sell candle. And we were looking at this structure here. So we sent out a trade to our VIP community. We had structure that looked like this. And then we had relatively equal lows here, 5-hour sell to buy that we mitigated here, and then had a very impulsive push up from. And that impulsive move was met with a daily buy to sell candle that we ended up respecting. You guys can see it right here. So you can see it right here. Push up and mitigation right there. So we swept these lows before we, really making this push, which was pretty crazy. This was massive accumulation here, but that was a really, really nice trade. If you caught it, we did end up buying it, the 5-hour candle right in here, consolidate a lot, but then it did eventually go up. However, you can see, as I have indicated, that we had a BOS pullback and then a BOS down here. So I personally really, really like the 4-hour time frame for shorts, because we had a break of structure, lower low. Here's a high, lower low here. And then we had some relatively equal highs that we swept out with this candle. This is a doji candle that I think we could trade into and then short off from. And also these are kind of relatively equal lows. So I think price is due for another leg to the downside. It honestly might just continue to short off. So looking at this though, on the lower time frames, like the 30-minute, you can see that we had a leg, pullback leg, and within this leg, here's our structure. We had a low, so low, high, lower low, lower high, lower low. We had a break of structure here, and now after this break of structure, we have this area of interest down here that I think price will react from. So I want to, on EU, want to see a push down and then an eventual push up into here to then short off. So that is what I'm looking at on Euro USD. Just from a structural perspective, this is what price has done. There is no doubt about that. So yeah, there's really not much else that I'm looking at. I'm only looking at these 3 pairs, obviously. So I don't know how crazy you guys want me to be with it, but AU's clean. I'd say in terms of getting a grip on it, AU, I think I have a pretty good idea of what it's going to do. This is not too tricky or not too hard to discern. And then GU, little wonky. EU also pretty damn clear about where price is going. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope you guys find value. Like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. And we will talk to you all in our next video. Also, by the way, click the link to take you to the website so you can look at more of our services and stuff. So yeah, hope you guys enjoy, and we'll speak to you later. Bye, guys.